Section 1. It was supposed to be an ordinary day in Sector 7G, a remote expanse of the galaxy dotted with mining outposts and small colonies. The Galactic Coalition, a council of interspecies leaders, had long overlooked the humans, considering them an amusing but unremarkable species from a relatively unremarkable planet. For decades, humanity's calls for representation, fair trade agreements, and mutual respect had been met with dismissive laughs and bureaucratic obstacles. On one particular outpost on Rhea 9, a mining colony run by the Indirians, an amphibious race with translucent skin and eyes that glowed in the dark, tensions were especially high. Humans on Rhea 9 worked the most dangerous jobs in the mines, often dealing with unstable energy crystals and toxic mineral vapors that the Indirians themselves avoided. The humans' complaints had gone ignored by their supervisors and escalated only to be shuffled under a bureaucratic rug. Captain Alex Mason, a veteran officer with a reputation for maintaining his composure even in the worst of circumstances, had grown tired of watching his people suffer without any real recourse. He had filed complaint after complaint to the Galactic Coalition's Labor Board, only to receive cryptic messages or, at best, hollow promises. Today, however, something changed. Alex was called to an emergency meeting in the mining operations room, where he found the Indirian supervisor, Graztar, fuming with frustration. Several workers, including humans and Indirians, stood in the dimly lit chamber, listening to him rant. These humans think they deserve special treatment. Graztar barked, his iridescent skin glistening as he gestured toward Alex. They complain about the conditions as if they were forced to come here. We offered them employment, and they accepted it. Alex bit his tongue, but his patience was wearing thin. Supervisor Graztar, humans accepted these jobs with the understanding that safety measures would be enforced, that working conditions would meet galactic standards. We're risking our lives here, and all we're asking for is fair treatment. Graztar scoffed. If you find it too difficult, Captain Mason, there are other colonies that would gladly take over these jobs. This is not Earth. You will work by our rules. It was then that a minor but unsettling incident occurred. A young human miner named Jamie, only 19 and eager to earn enough credits to support her family, collapsed from inhaling toxic gas. The medical staff, prioritizing Indirian patients, neglected Jamie for hours, only treating her once several human workers protested. By then, the young miner had fallen into a critical condition. That night, back in the human quarters, resentment and frustration rippled through the ranks. Alex gathered his crew, all of them sharing stories of hardship, near misses, and moments of disregard from the coalition authorities. It wasn't just on Rhea 9, reports of similar treatment reached them from colonies across the sector. Alex, typically calm and collected, found himself simmering with anger he hadn't felt in years. Enough is enough, Alex said, his voice carrying the weight of collective frustration. If the coalition won't listen to our words, then maybe it's time we show them the consequences of pushing humanity too far. The miners, engineers, and medical staff present exchanged glances, uncertainty mingling with a renewed determination. They had been compliant, even docile, hoping that their sacrifices would earn them respect and fair treatment. Now, however, the seed of rebellion had taken root. Section 2. Captain Alex Mason and his crew began to strategize in secret, gathering in the unused lower levels of the mining colony on Rhea 9. They were joined by others, miners, engineers, and even a few Indirian sympathizers who had grown tired of the coalition's rigid hierarchy and disregard for human lives. They knew this rebellion couldn't simply be an act of defiance. It had to be impactful enough to force the coalition to acknowledge humanity's demands. They needed something bold. As the group brainstormed, a plan emerged, a series of calculated disruptions designed to disable Rhea 9's mining operations. By creating logistical chaos, they could hit the coalition where it hurt, their profits. Jamie's incident had inspired the group to take a stand, and they were determined to make sure her suffering wasn't in vain. Alex laid out the details of the plan. We'll start by targeting the plasma conduits and data relays. If we disrupt their communications and disable critical machinery, it will slow down production. Each team will be responsible for one key operation. Remember, this isn't about violence, it's about making them realize the consequences of their actions. The crew nodded, their faces a mix of determination and nervous excitement. For some, it was the first time they had ever taken a stand against such powerful forces. They knew the risks, but Alex's leadership gave them courage. Orla, a seasoned engineer with a knack for finding workarounds, volunteered to take charge of disabling the plasma conduits. "I've got experience with these systems. If we reroute power away from the mining machines, they'll be forced to operate at half capacity," she explained. "It won't take them long to notice, but it'll slow down production enough to make a statement." Next, a technician named Rami, who specialized in communications, offered to disrupt the data relays. "If we scramble their data feeds, it'll be nearly impossible for them to coordinate operations. They'll think it's a technical malfunction at first, but they'll soon realize someone's messing with their system." Over the next few days, the team put their plan into action, carefully coordinating each phase. As expected, it started subtly. Lights flickered, mining equipment malfunctioned, and reports were lost in a cascade of digital interference. Grastar, the Indirian supervisor, grew increasingly frustrated, blaming the disruptions on faulty equipment and poor maintenance. But as the sabotage continued, the scale of the disruptions became impossible to ignore. After a week of slowed production, the coalition's representatives took notice. They issued memos and dispatched maintenance crews to RIA 9, but the sabotage was too widespread. It became clear to the coalition that this wasn't just a technical issue, it was organized resistance. They issued warnings, demanding that the perpetrators cease their actions immediately. But the human workers, emboldened by their initial success, only intensified their efforts. As the pressure mounted, the coalition dispatched an enforcement team to investigate. When the officers arrived, they were met with unexpected defiance. Workers refused to cooperate, miners staged sit-ins, and messages of solidarity spread throughout RIA 9 and neighboring colonies. In a show of unity, workers in other mining colonies across the sector began to mimic the disruptions, sending a clear message to the coalition: humanity was no longer willing to be trampled upon. Captain Alex and his core team remained vigilant, coordinating from the shadows and constantly adapting to stay ahead of the coalition's investigations. They knew that a direct confrontation with the coalition's enforcers would end poorly, so they focused on sabotage that left no traces, frustrating the coalition without providing a clear target for retaliation. But it wasn't long before the coalition escalated their response. The regional director, a strict military figure named Commander Svarthak, issued a stern warning. Appearing on holographic screens throughout RIA 9, his voice boomed, cold and menacing. "Attention, humans of RIA 9 and neighboring colonies. Your insubordination will no longer be tolerated. Cease all disruptive activities immediately, or you will face severe consequences. You are guests here, not equals. Remember your place." The threat didn't have the desired effect. Instead of backing down, it only fueled the humans' resolve. Alex, his blood boiling at the condescension in Svarthak's voice, knew they were at a turning point. The coalition had made it clear they saw humanity as nothing more than a tool, a dispensable, second-rate species. The realization sparked something in him, a simmering fury that he could see mirrored in the faces of his crew. "That's it," Alex said, gathering his team that evening. "If they want to escalate, we'll escalate right back. We'll make them feel every bit of frustration, every drop of pain they've inflicted on us. They think they can intimidate us? Let's show them how wrong they are." His words were met with nods of agreement, and the group quickly set to work on the next phase of their plan. They organized an information leak, exposing the coalition's unjust practices and abuse of human workers to the rest of the galaxy. Using hidden communication relays, they sent out footage and testimonials from miners, engineers, and medics who had witnessed or experienced exploitation firsthand. The images of young Jamie, still recovering from her injuries, spread rapidly across galactic networks. The Coalition tried to suppress the footage, but it was too late. The message had reached the farthest corners of the galaxy, sparking outrage among the less privileged species who saw themselves in humanity's plight. Protests erupted on multiple planets, and solidarity movements began forming, supporting humanity's right to fair treatment. As the campaign gained momentum, Alex and his team decided it was time to take things one step further. They staged a temporary takeover of the mining operations, ensuring that production halted completely. Coalition personnel, previously indifferent to the human workers, were suddenly thrown into disarray, forced to confront the reality that they could no longer operate without cooperation from humanity. In response, Commander Svarthak ordered a lockdown on Rhea 9, deploying enforcers to restore order. The humans braced themselves, expecting an all-out assault from the Coalition's forces. But Alex had one more card up his sleeve, a call for help sent to sympathetic factions within the Alliance, including other colonies that had suffered under the Coalition's oppressive regime. To his surprise, the message was answered swiftly. Ships belonging to various species arrived in Rhea 9's orbit, each one declaring their support for humanity's cause. The Coalition found itself facing an unlikely coalition of humans, disillusioned Coalition members, and independent factions from across the galaxy. As Alex stood on the ridge overlooking the colony, watching the Coalition ships hesitate in orbit, he felt a swell of pride. Humanity had finally drawn the line, refusing to back down in the face of overwhelming odds. They had allies now, species who recognized the injustice and were willing to stand alongside them. "Captain," Rami said, approaching him. "The Coalition's message has changed. They're asking for negotiations." A slow smile spread across Alex's face. "Of course they are. Let's see how they like the taste of diplomacy on our terms." Section 3. The Coalition's initial message for negotiations was little more than a delay tactic, a thinly veiled attempt to regroup and re-strategize. Commander Svarthak, who had once scorned humanity's demands, now had his forces positioned strategically around Rhea 9, prepared to crush any resistance. However, he had miscalculated the momentum of the movement. What had started as a human uprising had transformed into an interspecies alliance. Those who had once been marginalized, oppressed, or dismissed by the Coalition saw this as a chance to demand justice. The combined fleet surrounding Rhea 9 was an unprecedented mix of ships from different species, each representing the diverse allies humanity had rallied. Alex found himself in frequent communication with leaders of these various factions, coordinating strategies that took advantage of each species' strengths and unique technologies. Captain Yara of the Azari, an aquatic species known for their advanced shielding tech, offered to deploy her ships as a first line of defense, while the Skern, a technologically savvy but traditionally neutral race, helped jam Coalition communications and relay false signals to sow confusion. From the bridge of the SS Venture, Alex stood with his eyes fixed on the tactical screen, watching as Commander Svarthak's forces inched closer. A single transmission from the Coalition crackled through the comms. "Attention to all insurgents on Rhea 9. Disperse immediately, or face the consequences. This is your final warning." Alex exchanged a glance with his crew. They're stalling. They know if they launch a full-scale attack, the galaxy's watching. He tapped into the all-channel frequency and sent a reply. "Svarthak, your intimidation doesn't work here anymore. If you truly want to negotiate, withdraw your forces and approach peacefully. Otherwise, we're ready for you." The comm line went silent, and for a moment, the tension on the SS Venture bridge was palpable. Finally, the screen flickered, showing a distorted image of Commander Svarthak, his face twisted with anger. "Do you seriously think a ragtag group of misfits can stand against the Coalition's might?" Svarthak's voice dripped with contempt. "I will give you one last chance. Surrender, or we will obliterate you and make an example out of this uprising." Captain Yara's voice came over the comms, calm and unwavering. Commander Svarthak, consider this carefully. If you harm even one of us, you'll find the entire galaxy united against you." Svarthak's sneer faded slightly, but he held his ground. "We'll see." The screen went black, and within moments, the Coalition's ships surged forward, breaking their formation and firing upon the assembled Alliance fleet. The battle erupted with a fury that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. Alex sprang into action, issuing commands to his crew. "Orla, bring our shields to full power. Rami, monitor incoming fire and activate countermeasures. Get those signal jammers up, we need to keep their communications in disarray." The SS Venture dove into the fray, weaving between enemy ships and firing strategic bursts from its plasma cannons. The Azari ships absorbed incoming fire with their advanced shielding, providing cover for the smaller, nimbler ships to strike at vulnerable Coalition targets. Alex marveled at the coordination as Skirn ships unleashed EMPs that left Coalition vessels temporarily disabled, while the agile Salori fighters, a species known for their combat prowess, exploited those moments to deal devastating blows to enemy defenses. In the middle of the chaos, Alex caught sight of Commander Svarthak's flagship. Unlike the other Coalition vessels, this ship was a massive, heavily armored dreadnought, bristling with weapons. Svarthak wasn't here merely to intimidate, he was here to crush the uprising once and for all. The Coalition's forces swarmed around the dreadnought, offering protection as it advanced toward Rhea 9. "We need to take that dreadnought out of commission," Alex muttered, analyzing their options. "If we can neutralize Svarthak, it'll send a message to the Coalition that we won't be bullied anymore." Captain Yara's voice came through, as if reading his mind. "Captain Mason, our shielding tech can buy us time to get close to the dreadnought, but we'll need cover fire." Alex didn't hesitate. "You've got it, Yara. All units, cover the Azari ships and prepare to concentrate fire on the Coalition flagship." Under Alex's command, the Allied fleet coordinated their attacks, focusing their firepower on the dreadnought's shields. The SS Venture led the charge, maneuvering dangerously close to the enemy flagship while unleashing precise bursts of fire. The dreadnought's shields flickered under the relentless assault, but it retaliated with heavy plasma cannons, forcing the Allied ships to scatter. Inside the SS Venture, alarms blared as enemy fire grazed their hull, sending shudders through the ship. Alex gripped his console, barking orders to his crew. "Reroute power to shields. Zeke, target those plasma cannons and disable them." The crew worked with synchronized urgency, each member carrying out their part of the plan. Orla, the ship's engineer, rerouted power from non-essential systems to bolster their shields, while Zeke, the gunner, locked onto the dreadnought's weapons and launched a series of ion blasts, temporarily disabling one of its plasma cannons. As the SS Venture circled the dreadnought, a barrage of lasers struck it from above. Svarthak's ship shuddered, its shields buckling under the onslaught. With each passing second, the once mighty dreadnought was being stripped of its defenses, weakened by the relentless assault from the combined alliance. Svarthak's voice crackled over the comms, filled with desperation. "You'll regret this insolence. The Coalition will crush every last one of you." But Alex knew they had already won half the battle. The Coalition's forces were faltering, their cohesion shattered by the Alliance's unexpected unity and resilience. Svarthak's forces had never anticipated this level of coordination from species they had dismissed as lesser. Captain Yara's ship, shielded by her people's advanced tech, positioned itself directly above the dreadnought, delivering a sustained energy blast that finally broke through its shields. Alex seized the opportunity. "Rami, open a channel to Svarthak. Let's see if he's ready to reconsider his options." The image of Svarthak appeared on the screen, his face a mix of fury and desperation. The confidence he'd once worn like armor was gone, replaced by a dawning realization that his forces were outmatched. Alex met his gaze with steely calm. "It's over, Svarthak. Your ships are in retreat, your flagship is disabled, and your forces have been overwhelmed. Call off your attack and surrender peacefully, or face the consequences." Svarthak hesitated, his pride warring with the stark reality of his situation. He looked around at the damage his own arrogance had wrought, his once loyal fleet now crippled and scattered. Finally, he lowered his gaze, the weight of defeat settling on his shoulders. "Very well," Svarthak said through gritted teeth. "I concede. This sector is yours, for now." The screen went dark, and a cheer erupted throughout the Allied fleet. Ships that had once stood alone in the face of oppression now stood together, united by the strength they had found in one another. As the dust settled, Alex and his crew took in the sight of the battered coalition dreadnought, drifting aimlessly in the void. This victory was more than just a tactical success, it was a statement to the galaxy. The coalition had underestimated humanity's resolve, and they had paid the price. Captain Yara's voice broke through the comms, filled with satisfaction. "Captain Mason, we did it. The galaxy will remember this day." Alex allowed himself a moment to breathe, the tension finally melting away. "We've made our point, Yara. But this isn't the end. The coalition will regroup, and they won't forget what happened here." "But now they know," Yara replied, "that humanity isn't alone. We stand with you, Alex." Alex felt a surge of gratitude as he looked around the bridge, his crew worn but smiling, their resilience shining brighter than any star in the galaxy. They had accomplished the impossible, and in doing so, they had secured humanity's place among the stars. Section 4. In the days following the battle, the galaxy was abuzz with news of the unprecedented victory at Rhea 9. Reports, messages of solidarity, and stories of bravery flooded the galactic networks. Species that had previously considered humans a novelty, if they considered them at all, now spoke with newfound respect, even awe. For the first time, humanity was a name whispered in the same breath as courage, resilience, and ingenuity. On board the SS Venture, Captain Alex Mason and his crew were hailed as heroes, not only by their human comrades but by their new allies as well. Though still weary from the battle, the crew felt a profound sense of pride and accomplishment. The victory had shifted more than just the balance of power, it had opened doors and fostered alliances that would shape the galaxy's future. The SS Venture docked at the Alliance's central hub on Tyrian 4, where representatives from dozens of species had gathered to recognize and honor those who had fought in the recent battle. Alex, along with Captain Yara, Rami, Orla, and others who had contributed to the success, stepped onto a stage set against a backdrop of stars, facing a crowd of diplomats, military leaders, and civilians from across the galaxy. Counselor Illyra stood at the center of the platform, her regal presence amplifying the significance of the gathering. She raised her voice, and a hush fell over the crowd. "Today, we recognize a monumental shift, a moment that will be remembered for generations to come. Against overwhelming odds, species who once fought alone stood side by side, united by a common purpose. And at the heart of this movement, we find humanity, a species once overlooked, now a symbol of resilience and courage." She turned to Alex, her expression warm and respectful. "Captain Mason, your leadership and bravery have changed the course of history. You and your allies have shown us that together, we are stronger than any coalition, any tyrant, or any force that would seek to oppress us." Alex felt a swell of pride, though he tried to remain humble. "Thank you, Counselor Illyra. But this victory was not ours alone. Every species here today has shown what it means to fight for something greater than ourselves. We didn't win this because we were stronger. We won because we stood together." The crowd erupted in applause, a standing ovation echoing throughout the chamber. As Alex looked out over the assembly, he saw faces filled with hope and admiration. His gaze met the eyes of young humans, Salori, Azari, and Skern cadets who now saw a future where their struggles were not theirs to bear alone. In that moment, Alex knew the significance of what they had accomplished went beyond any one battle or any one species. They had given birth to an alliance that could stand against even the most formidable of foes. Later that evening, Alex and his crew gathered in a quieter part of the station, away from the crowds and ceremonies. Captain Yara joined them, her serene expression filled with gratitude. "Alex, I never thought I'd see the day when our species would stand together like this. You humans have a way of inspiring others." Alex smiled. "I think we just needed the right push. But without you and your people, we'd still be fighting alone." As the night wore on, representatives from the various Allied ships joined them, sharing stories of their own battles, victories, and sacrifices. They spoke not as humans, Azari, Salori, or Skirn, but as equals united by a shared purpose and newfound respect. Their conversations turned to the future. It was clear that the coalition, while dealt a significant blow, would not simply give up. They would regroup, and the next encounter would likely be even more intense. But Alex felt confident that they were ready. The alliances forged in battle had laid the groundwork for a new era of cooperation and unity in the galaxy. Rami, the communications expert, raised a toast. "To resilience, to strength, and to the bonds that keep us together." Orla, the engineer who had disabled the plasma conduits on Rhea 9, chuckled. "And to showing the coalition what happens when they underestimate us." As laughter rippled through the group, Alex felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. They had faced their worst fears, defied the expectations of the galaxy, and emerged victorious. The fear and frustration that had once driven them had transformed into a fierce resolve. When the celebrations died down, Alex and his crew returned to the SS Venture. They were greeted by a crowd of admirers, many of whom were young cadets who had heard tales of their bravery and resilience. The admiration in their eyes reminded Alex of how far they had come. Humanity had evolved from being an afterthought to being a respected force, one that even the coalition could no longer ignore. A young Skirn cadet approached Alex, his eyes wide with awe. "Captain Mason, do you really think we can keep the coalition from taking over?" Alex knelt down, meeting the cadet's gaze. "Together, we can do anything. Remember that strength doesn't come from one person or one species alone. It comes from those who stand beside you, willing to fight for what's right." The cadet nodded, his resolve clear. Alex patted him on the shoulder and stood, feeling a renewed sense of duty. The battle for Rhea 9 had been won, but the galaxy was vast, and their journey was only beginning. The SS Venture's engines hummed to life as they prepared for departure. Alex stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars, the infinite possibilities stretching before them. "Ortega," he said, glancing at his second-in-command, "set a course for our next destination. Let's make sure our allies know they can count on us, wherever they are." Ortega smiled, entering the coordinates. "Aye, Captain. Looks like we've got a lot of friends waiting for us out there." With a final nod, Alex took his place in the captain's chair. The SS Venture surged forward, its mission now clear. Humanity was no longer an isolated species at the edges of the galaxy. They were part of a united front, a force for change and resilience. And as they sailed into the stars, Alex knew that wherever their journey took them, they would be ready. As the SS Venture continued its journey through the galaxy, Alex Mason found himself reflecting on everything they had achieved and the countless battles still ahead. Each stop they made was met with gratitude and admiration, from remote outposts to bustling central planets where humans and allies alike awaited them. Their reputation had spread, with stories of their resilience and courage inspiring hope across the galaxy. It wasn't long before the Venture's crew received word of a new coalition movement gathering in the outer sectors. Rumors spoke of shadowy gatherings and coalition ships amassing quietly on the fringes of known space. The coalition wasn't simply retreating, they were adapting, reorganizing, and perhaps even forging alliances of their own. The reports suggested that they were planning something massive, a counterstrike that would aim to crush the newly formed alliance before it could gain too much power. Alex gathered his crew and allies in the Venture's briefing room, the walls lined with holographic maps of coalition hotspots and suspected fleet gatherings. Captain Yara, General Chen, and a few of their closest allied commanders joined them, each member bringing vital intelligence and their unique perspectives. "We're looking at a full-scale retaliation," Chen began, her voice steady but serious. The coalition wants to make an example out of the alliance and, specifically, humanity. They've been sending out targeted propaganda, painting us as a chaotic, uncontrollable force that threatens galactic order. Alex nodded, his face hardened. They want to turn us back into outsiders. Make us look like the bad guys. But we're not backing down. We've seen too much, come too far, to let them scare us back into submission. Captain Yara added, they're targeting the most vulnerable planets first, those that have openly declared their support for us. They're trying to weaken our alliances by instilling fear. If we don't act quickly, we could lose the very foundation of this movement. The assembled leaders strategized, agreeing that a preemptive strike on the coalition's strongholds would be the best course of action. Their mission was not to destroy but to destabilize, to disrupt the coalition's power structure and make it clear that the alliance was not only willing but capable of defending itself against any threat. Over the following weeks, the alliance fleet launched coordinated attacks on coalition supply lines, communication hubs, and outposts. Each strike was executed with precision, crippling the coalition's resources and delaying their plans. The coalition, used to operating with little resistance, found themselves constantly scrambling to regain control. And for every success, the alliance's reputation grew stronger, their unity undeniable. On one particularly dangerous mission, Alex led a raid on a heavily fortified coalition base on the planet Ikar. The coalition's outpost was deep underground, protected by layers of security systems and guarded by some of their most elite soldiers. This raid was crucial, as intelligence indicated that the coalition was developing a powerful weapon, a weapon capable of tearing through even the most advanced shielding technology. The venture landed quietly on Ikar, its engines powered down to avoid detection. Alex, Ortega, and a hand-picked team of skilled operatives made their way through the rocky terrain under the cover of darkness, their movements quick and silent. As they infiltrated the base, Alex's team worked like a well-oiled machine, disabling security systems and clearing corridors with minimal noise. They reached the heart of the facility, a vast underground lab where coalition scientists were working frantically on a massive weapon, its core glowing ominously with unstable energy. Ortega's eyes widened as he assessed the device. Captain, if they finish this thing, it'll tear through our ships like paper. Alex didn't hesitate. We take it down now. Set charges on the weapon core and on the key power relays. As the team planted the charges, coalition reinforcements arrived, resulting in a fierce firefight. Alex and his crew fought valiantly, using every bit of cover as they dodged plasma blasts and returned fire. When the last of the charges were set, they sprinted toward the exit, coalition forces in hot pursuit. Just as they reached the surface, Ortega triggered the charges. A massive explosion shook the ground, and the coalition's underground facility collapsed in on itself, the powerful weapon reduced to a smoldering ruin. The team hurried back to the venture and took off, leaving the coalition forces scrambling in the aftermath. This mission, like so many others, was a victory for the Alliance, a testament to the strength and unity that had formed against all odds. Back aboard the SS Venture, Alex finally allowed himself a moment of relief, looking at the faces of his crew, bruised and battered but filled with a fierce pride. Every step we take, every victory we win, we show the galaxy that we're here to stay, he said, his voice filled with determination. They may try to push us down, but we'll only rise stronger. As the SS Venture and its allied fleet continued to traverse the galaxy, defending those who needed them and standing firm against the coalition, humanity's place in the galaxy grew ever more secure. They weren't just survivors, they were leaders, defenders, and champions of a future where unity and resilience defined the galaxy. And though Alex knew there would always be challenges, he also knew that, together, they would face anything the universe could throw at them. With humanity's indomitable spirit leading the way, the galaxy was ready for a new era, one shaped by strength, courage, and a hope that could never be extinguished.